All right, Erica, welcome. Erica, if you're talking, you're muted.
Hi,
oh, there you go.
I'm here. Hi. I'm here. I got lost in the app. I'm sorry. So I have several questions, and I hope I didn't miss the answers earlier. I had a little trouble logging on. So the first one, I'll go from most general to most specific to our organization. We're applying in track 2 for education. And so I'm wondering if there are attachments like financial documents about the organization that we need to be prepared to submit. I did not see, just looking through the application, that there was anything there. And I don't know if that is going to, if a new screen might open up, or if that is something that is later in the process.
Great question. No, the application does not ask applicants to upload financial documents.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then the second question is about fiscal sponsorship. Our organization is a 501c3 with a long history in garden education. And we fiscally sponsor another organization. The geographies are completely different. And we're wondering if it's possible for both of us to apply under the same, under our 501c3. Yeah.
Oh, that's a really awesome question. I think if you don't mind for that one, I'm going to ask if you can email it to us, just with a little bit of information about the relationship between the two entities. And that would be really helpful. And then we can make sure to get back to you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. I think these are pending with you in the email right now, but just with the time, the limited time, we're hoping to get information to our fiscally sponsored project about whether they could also apply. So I will email again with the specifics. And then two questions about whether these expenses are allowable. One of them is vegetable starts, as long as they're California grown. Is that an allowable expense? I see you nodding.
Yes, vegetable starts are an allowable cost.
Okay, and then the other one is a little bit more complicated. So we're working with the district, and for after-school programs, we are hiring after-school educators that actually are going to be completely funded by the district. And so the question is whether we can provide our own coaching and training to those after-school educators. So we have an ongoing professional development program that we'll be offering to classroom teachers. Can we also offer it to the after-school teachers who are technically our employees, but funded by the district?
Is this for track 2? I think you said
for which?
that. Is this for track 2?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, awesome question. Yeah, so in the education category for track 2, it's the goal is to build capacity of educators employed in California school districts. So I see what you're asking. They're funded by the district, but employed by you. And it would be in addition to classroom teachers employed in the district?
Yes.
Yeah, so that would be allowable to include, and just explaining how that fits into the project.
Okay, great. I actually, that's all my questions. Thank you very much. Thank you for having all the answers to these detailed questions for us all.
Oh gosh, doing my best. Thank you for joining. All right, Jennifer, you're up.
Great, thank you. Let's see. So I had a couple, first, I had reached out to someone on the team here, but I did just want to verify we're a really tiny rural school. We'd be applying, our school would be serving about 60 students. And, when you do that math, in terms of trying to figure out what amount you're applying for, we're, just by that formula, we're under. But can we still apply even though we're so small?
I'm so sorry. I got distracted somehow. Can you repeat your question? I'm really sorry about that.
That's okay. We're from a really rural part of the coast, and so our program serves about 60 students. Is that allowable to be applying as an LEA with such a small population?
I see. That's an awesome question. Yeah, so as long as you meet that track 1 eligibility criteria where you're a school district that's a school food authority operating the National School Lunch Program, or maybe you're a charter school.
We're a charter.
Okay, yeah, so charter school, that's a school food authority currently operating the National School Lunch Program. You're eligible to apply. It's totally okay if, you know, there's no minimum requirement of number of students enrolled.
Okay.
And in terms of the funding formula, what will probably happen is that when you multiply the students enrolled by $15, it's probably going to be less than 200,000. So you would be able to apply for 200,000. Okay, great. And then the other question, or sort of two-pronged question, is our program currently, we actually have our K-3 students who have weekly outdoor days on a local education farm. And so we definitely want to tie that program into our grant application because it's happening off-site. Is that still allowable? And also, if we wanted to include any expenses for the off-site program, would that be allowable? Awesome question. Yeah, so in track 1, there's this hands-on food education component where it's required to engage students in hands-on food education opportunities that complement the school meal program's California food procurement efforts. Totally okay if that's on-site or off-site, as long as you're, you're taking a look at like the review criteria and as you're filling out the application. There's no requirement that it be happening on school grounds. Okay. All right, great. I think that was my primary questions. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. Those are great ones. And I just wanted to go back to the question before from Erica, because I'm not sure if I clearly answered this one. So I just wanted to go back and say that for the education category, it would be required that it's building capacity of educators employed in the entities listed here. But yeah, if in addition, it's like Erica was talking about, it's like other educators as well that are funded through the district, and it's aligning with the goals of track 2, that could be a component of a track 2 education project. So just wanted to clarify in case I was unclear. And then the next hand I see is Karen, welcome.
Hello, thank you for the session. It's been very helpful. And I'll go ahead and start with my questions. So let me start off by saying that we are interested in track 3. And we are a nonprofit organization with the Head Start program, quite a few sites. So we were thinking about an on-site garden and having, educational experiences for the children at the Head Start centers. So I was wondering if that would suffice for the California food procurement requirement.
To incorporate California grown food into the Head Start center's meals?
Yes, and have it kind of the garden be on site and having them kind of like plant the seeds and then having those kind of educational aspects to it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So for track 3, this procurement component, the procurement could include procuring food from an on-site ECE garden, such as a Head Start garden, and then incorporating it into the ECE meals or snacks. And kind of similar to an earlier question, but that one was about track 1. There are 4 different goals in the procurement work plan section of track 3. And so the first procurement goal is I think pretty similar to this language, where it's like procuring California grown or produced petroleum minimally processed foods for incorporation into meal snacks and or food boxes for young children. And so that is where, procuring from an on-site garden would be allowable under that goal. However, there are 3 other goals 2, 3, and 4, that are optional. And if the only procurement that is occurring is from an on-site garden, then unfortunately the applicant wouldn't be eligible to fill out goals 2, 3, and 4. But if in addition, the project will also be procuring from food producers that aren't the on-site garden that align with goals 2, 3, and 4, then those would be available to the applicant to fill out. So all that to say, what you're asking is definitely allowable.
Okay, awesome. And then
Yeah.
for the aspect that you're kind of talking about right now, we were also thinking of, because we have a food bank as well. And if I'm not wrong, I need to double check this, but we have a staff member who is kind of, their role is to procure local food farmers to donate food for the food bank. So we were thinking of also having the food bank provide those food items to the Head Start centers as we wait for, the seeds to grow, and that kind of sense of having available food. So would that be covering the other goals?
That's a great question. So yeah, for the procurement piece, it wouldn't be required to have to directly purchase from a producer. If you'd prefer to procure through an intermediary such as a food bank or a food hub, then that would be allowable. And then and then just taking a look at those goals 2, 3, and 4 and seeing if that procurement would be in alignment with those goals, and if so, describing in the activities section how the activities you would be doing, for example, procuring food through a food bank, would align with those the description of each goal. Then it doesn't have to be directly from a food producer.
Awesome. And then I have one more question, just because I took a look at the kind of the budget narratives and budget section, specifically under the equipment. I did see that there was an example of a mobile educational kitchen, and that was my first time hearing about that. So I was wondering if you knew a little bit more about that, if you can provide a little bit more details as to how past grantees have used mobile educational kitchens.
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So back on this page, in the very bottom of the grant webpage, the URL is up here. I'll put this in the chat. So if you scroll to the very bottom, this is where there are summaries of the past funded projects from the prior 2 rounds. And so you could go in here and maybe, filter for mobile kitchen or mobile educational kitchen and see what comes up, and then kind of read through what they're doing. There have been grantees who have incorporated that into their projects. And that would go under the hands-on food education component of the project budget, most likely.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome questions. Thanks for joining. And thanks everyone for your patience. Still going through hands, and then pretty soon we'll be heading over to the chat. All right, next up I see Gwen. Welcome.
Hi. Okay. Hi. Good to see you. Good to see you. Okay.
You too.
I have first question. The title for the grant. Since this is our second go round, just wanted to see if, we're doing the same thing, we're just expanding on it. Should we put that in our title? We love our title. So should we just put something about we're expanding or we are enhancing, or would that be, or should we totally change that title?
Great question. Yeah, the project title is totally up to you. So it could be the same, it could be a variation, or it could be different. Yeah, whatever you prefer.
Okay, perfect. Okay, next, this is on, I guess, number 35, dealing with the descriptions of the goals that we want. And let's see, the explanations that we're giving, as for our activities, is there a number limit? I didn't see a number limit, a character limit rather, for how much information we put in there.
Oh, that's an awesome question. Is this what you're talking about? This, yeah, farm to school.
This is for, I'm sorry, track 4.
Right. Oh, yeah,
Track 4.
awesome. So, yeah, in these questions where it's asking you to list the activities and timeline of how you're going to achieve each of the goals, there's no limit on the number of activities you can enter.
Perfect. Okay, great. Okay. And then also one question, well, we were approached about being a shared kitchen. There's none in our rural community and some of the other small communities up here. Would we, and we'll be able to do it because we're expanding to, include more farmers and helping more people in the community. Would that be totally out of the way for us to include expenses to try to create a shared kitchen in this grant, or would that be out of the thing? And then what would we, would it be under equipment or?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Infrastructure.
So I'm sorry, could you share what would the purpose of the shared kitchen be? I think you might have already said it, but
And this, oh, okay, yeah. I said we're expanding to, other farmers. We already have field trips to their farms and all that. A lot of them are small, but are in need sometimes of extra storage or whatever. But they contribute in the community. Just wondering if expenses for a shared kitchen just simply, they said, allowing the community, if they want to come in and use your facility, and, it would have to be certified and all that. I'm just wondering if we could show funding for funding requests for a shared kitchen. Now, of course, with the shared kitchen, we benefit. It's a nice certified by the county. Our kids, of course, are using the kitchen. It's really the kids' kitchen is what we're calling it. This is kind of a level up as far as the expansion thing. So if it fits into the budget for what we want, would the shared kitchen concept be okay?
oh, that's such a good question. And thanks so much for sharing more about it. That may be one we have to look into a little bit more. So if you're able to send that to us in an email so we can make sure to get back to you over email, that would be super helpful. Yeah, like in general, the purpose of track 4 is this goal here: increase production, processing, and or distribution capacity of California grown or produced whole or minimally processed foods for the school food market. And then projects can also optionally incorporate this, providing hands-on food education opportunities for students or staff at your project partner sites that complement your food sales to those schools. And so, the activities and project costs would be, aligning with those goals. So, yeah, in general, but yeah, I think for this specific question, it would be helpful for us to look into it a little bit more so we can make sure to provide you a clear response on it.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gwen. All right, next up, Robert, welcome.
Thank you.
Melanie,
Question about, I have one track 4 producer produces hay currently and wants to expand food production capabilities on their property with an orchard. Is that allowed? Would they qualify?
Well, so there is a requirement. That's a great question. There is a requirement in track 4 that food producers must currently produce food in order to be eligible to apply.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll verify with them that if they have any food production capabilities, but that would be helpful. Okay. So they just have to be a current producer, or have a history of being a producer.
Yeah, awesome clarification questions. So they would need to meet, this definition of a food producer. And then this is on page 9 of the RFA.
Okay.
I'll put this link in the chat. And then, and then kind of more specifically, when you get to the section in the RFA that's about track 4 eligibility, this is on page 21. That's where it talks about how right here applicants must currently produce food to be eligible to
Mhm.
apply if they're applying as a food producer, or if they're
Okay.
applying as the other type of entity, they must currently aggregate and distribute food to be eligible. And there's a question about that in the application too.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. That answers my question. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Yeah, great question. And next up is Anna. Welcome.
Hi there.
Hi.
I have just a few quick questions. We're applying for track 1 again.
Okay.
And sorry if he goes off. I'm gonna try and make it quick. For the chief staff education officer, that there has to be like to make sure it's being implemented. So for our district, I'm the one who like makes sure that it is being implemented because I manage the program. Are you guys looking for someone different to be listed in that section?
Oh, great question. Is this for this piece, school district admin rep?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, awesome question. So the role here, the instructions say it's typically filled by a superintendent, assistant superintendent, or similar leadership position. So typically somebody playing that larger administration role, kind of organization-wide. And then there's also a place for farm to school project lead. So that would be the main contact for the grant. So perhaps like the the person who's coordinating the project and working with all the team members and all of that might be in that role. Yeah.
And then is that the same? So I saw the superintendent one, but and then the education one. Yeah.
Yeah. So just as an example, we said that this role is typically filled by a chief education officer, a similar position. So if it's not that position, as long as it's aligning with this description of what their role is, it's totally up to you to determine, like in alignment with the descriptions of these different roles, which individual is going to fill each one. And sometimes it might be possible that like the same person is filling, for example, member 2 and member 3. So that would be okay. It's just important that all 4 roles are filled, even if it's not 4 separate individuals.
Okay, perfect. And then other question was in regards to, this was payment beforehand. Is that like, so would you guys would like award that to the district and then they would like have the funding and then provide the receipts for purchases, or how would that section work?
Oh yeah, great question. So there's an option during the grant term for grant recipients to request advance payment. Otherwise the grant program is a reimbursement grant program by default. But yeah, there is the option to request advance payment, and we have like a form that the recipient would fill out and submit, and it would be required to include in that form like a justification for the reason of why an advance payment is needed as opposed to the typical reimbursement process. And if approved, then it would be like a paper check in the mail to the grant recipient. And there are some like procedures, and there are some advance payment regulations too that we link to in the RFA. I can find that page for, if an advance payment is awarded or is granted, what the recipient would follow. So we link to those on this page. It's page 15 of the RFA. So there's a link to advance payment regulations. It's if you go to this link, you would have to scroll just a little bit. It's section 316.1. And so some of the important things to keep in mind is that just what it says here, that advance payments, it can be for project expenses needed for up to a 3-month period. And then overall advance payments cannot reduce the total award amount below 10% of the total award amount.
Okay. Amazing. Thank you so much, Amy, for clarifying.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
And then Bevelyn, welcome. I see your hand next.
Hi, Miss Amy.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
I
Can you
can,
hear
yeah.
me? Okay. Here's my question. It's because this is the first time we heard about this grant, and this is our first time as a child care center. So we have two sites. One is from San Diego and Sacramento. So am I right? We're under one name, the Healthy Solution. So it will be the Healthy Solution who will apply for that two sites.
Awesome question. Yeah, so for childcare centers, it's allowable for a childcare center to be single site or multi-site. So yeah, here's the definition up here. So if you're a childcare center that has multiple sites, then you would still be eligible to apply as long as your center is meeting this definition from the RFA.
And also, we're going to partner with a technical assistance organization for our food procurement.
And oh yeah, I'm sorry. And the question is if that's allowed? Or...
Yes, is that allowed?
Yeah, so working with another organization to support you as your yeah, for the food procurement component of the project, that would be okay.
Okay. Can I have one? Two. How many staff do we have to employ for this program? Is there a limit for that one?
Yeah, so for track 3, the award amount range is 50,000 to 200,000. So you could apply for an amount. Applicants can apply for an amount between that range. So you would choose, and then you would build your proposed project budget around the award amount that you decide to apply for within that range.
The last question I have is about the community needs, the CDFA data lookup. What is this all about? I cannot understand.
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, let me go to that part. I'm sorry that that's confusing. Yeah, so in track 3, the CDFA data lookup, that's just referring to the fact that you don't need to spend time calculating this. You can skip that question, but it's something that that our team will be looking up once applications are submitted to calculate the answer, and then the score will be based on that calculation. And so we wanted to make sure to provide to all applicants like what the data source would be and what the calculation would be, but there's no need for you to respond to that question.
Yeah, I'm worried because it's 20 points.
Yeah, yeah. So it's for track 3. It's based on census tract. So if you're interested in seeing what the score would be, you're welcome to explore this resource and then find the percentile and then try to see the amount of points that you would get for that question. But yeah, there wouldn't be anything for you to enter in response to the question.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Amy.
Yeah, awesome questions. Thanks for joining. Next up, Pam, welcome.
Hi, thank you. We are applying for track 3 and are creating a whole family situation for the daycares. And part of that is a lot of education and events in the garden to really draw the families in. And we had a question. We are going to be helping the schools procure from local farmers, but to both help educate families on buying more local food and purchasing from our local farmers, I came up with the idea of a token system for the parents and families from the daycares to be able, that we would provide them with tokens for a match at the market to get them shopping more. And this is to help them transition their food buying habits and support the local farmers, which might end up, becoming something that's long-term and great. And I'm just wondering if that's an allowable expense.
That would be, yeah. Yeah, great question.
Cool. Okay. Well, that was easy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, and thanks for your patience. Thanks everyone for sticking in this call with me. All right, next up, Khan. Welcome.
Hi.
Again. Hi.
Yeah, my question, we are charter school with no kitchen and no on-site kitchen, but we do have something. We've been holding classes, cooking classes, just taste testing and cooking classes. But my question was basically, if we aren't, and we thought about a portable kitchen as well. We were thinking, I was thinking through this. Is there a way that we can just, if it is possible, can we do track 2 based on the education part and be the educator that's applying, but partnering with ourselves as the school?
Oh, I see. That's a really good question. Unfortunately, no. So the track, if you're a charter school, that's a School Food Authority operating NSLP, the track you'd be eligible for is track 1.
Okay. Then
Yeah.
then that's what we're doing anyways. But yeah, but in regards to that one, we were thinking, if we do want to do something along the lines of providing and cooking food that will be on the menu for lunch and breakfast, can we allocate funds for either a commercial kitchen that we can produce food, from, hire a chef or staff to actually make that food for our kids?
Ooh, great question. Yeah, so in track 1, school kitchen equipment and infrastructure is allowable for to prepare and process and serve California grown or produced foods in school meals. And then similarly in track 1, farm to school staff and labor costs are allowable. So if that's that could include staff and labor costs to prepare, process, serve, cook the California grown or produced whole or minimally processed foods. So yeah, all of that fits into those allowable costs.
Okay, so infrastructure is anything that's not construction related, that's permanent to the property. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a really good question. We don't actually have a definition of infrastructure.
Okay.
So yeah, like an explicit definition. So in the application, as you're filling it out in the proposed project budget, the school kitchen cost section is split up into 3 different categories: infrastructure, equipment, and supplies. There are definitions of equipment and supplies if you're interested in reviewing those. But yeah, we just ask that you do your best as you're, trying to figure out which category, infrastructure, equipment, or supplies your proposed costs go into. And it's okay if it's not, if it's in equipment, but it was supposed to be in infrastructure or something, that's okay.
Okay. And then my final question is, as far as the farm level data, because, we're opting to, procure foods from all 4 of those, what am I trying to say? Different kinds of farmers. How do we, I know that, it said, why don't you email us in regards to how to find that farm level data? Can we just get that straight from the farmers themselves?
Yeah, definitely. That would be great.
Okay, so we just ask them themselves, but is there an easier way? Is there a list of the farmers with their farm level data there to look at somewhere?
You could ask them if they have that, but yeah, for track 1, what this is referring to is there's a food procurement metrics worksheet for track 1 recipients to fill out as part of the invoicing when requesting reimbursement for the cost of California grown or produced whole or minimally processed food. And in that food procurement worksheet, it asks for farm level data, like the name of the farm and things like that. So that's the farm level data we're referring to. So when if awarded, when you're filling out that worksheet, if you're able to ask the farmer and they're able to share that information, that would be great.
All right, that's it. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for your patience and for those great questions. Next up, Carolyn. Welcome.
Okay. Hey, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we're applying for track 4, and we also applied for the Resilient Food System Infrastructure Grant through the CDFA, and we're like awaiting to see if we will receive that. Is there any like overlap in funding allowed between the two grants?
Oh, that's a really good question. So the first thing I just want to show is at the end of each of the applications for all 4 funding tracks, there is, or toward the end, there's this question in track 4, it's number 57, that asks about support from other state or federal grants. So the first thing it says is just like a general statement that activities funded under this farm to school grant program cannot replace activities funded by another federal or state grant program. So then it asks you, have you submitted your project proposal to another federal state grant program? And so that's where you would, that would be an opportunity to respond. And, you know, if the case is yes, then to just identify the programs you've applied to, and then describing how this project proposal would supplement but not replace the other one.
Okay, so yeah, I guess that's kind of it has to be distinct. I guess our Resilient Food System Infrastructure Grant requests, there's like one piece of equipment in there that if we don't get that that grant, it would like really help us produce more for schools. And so, but we couldn't include that in the farm to school grant because it would be redundant, basically. Even if I don't know if I'm making myself clear.
Oh, you totally are.
Yeah.
I feel so bad asking people to email when you've spent all this time on the call, but if you don't mind,
yeah,
I'm going to ask you to email, just because it's such a good question. And yeah, and you know, particularly because you're referencing another program within our department, I just really want to make sure we look into it and get you a really clear response on that one. Yeah.
Not a problem at all, because I have another question.
Okay.
So for the letter of intent, or it's regarding that, I guess. What am I asking? Okay, yeah. So are we allowed to include funding that would be like, we are increasing our sales and educational opportunities to farms that we have not yet received a letter of intent for? As long as we have a letter of intent from someone, we can still request funding to like expand it beyond that. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, that's a super great question. So yeah, first, just in track for the minimum partnership requirement is to just partner with one of those eligible school partners, and then to have a letter of intent from the director of their school meal program. If you have other partners you'd like to list as partners for your application in whatever question that is, where it asks about your school partners, you can totally do that, and then you'd be required to submit a letter of intent from them as well. If there are like if as part of the proposed project you're hoping to build relationships with additional districts beyond the ones that you're already partnering with for the application, that would be an allowable part of a track 4 project. So that could be something that you propose as part of your project.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Really great questions. All right, Nadine, welcome.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, Amy. We are applying for track 3. What would be the benefits of the technical assistance group?
Oh, good question. So in track 3, there are 2 like buckets of eligibility. So one is childcare centers in California are eligible to apply. Another option is that farm to ECE technical assistance organizations can apply. So that might be like a nonprofit or a sponsor of CACFP. So if a farm to ECE technical assistance organization applies, they are required to partner with at least 2 ECE sites. Can be more than 2, but at least 2 ECE sites as part of their application. So they could partner with family childcare homes, they could partner with childcare centers, they could partner with family friend and neighbor care settings. And so that would be a requirement for them to include those partners as part of their Track 3 project, and then to collaborate with them as part of that project.
Okay, thank you. And will the funding be granted to the early care education or the technical assistance group?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, if a child care center applies and is awarded, then they would be the recipient of the grant. And if a Farm to ECETA organization applies and is awarded, they would be the recipient of the grant, and in collaboration with their partners, but they would be the recipient. And then we do have something in the RFA, I'll go to it, about, let me find this. It's in the Track 3 eligibility section. And there's a note about award distribution that just says the CDFA will aim to award a proportional number of childcare centers and Farm to ECETA organizations based on the number of applications that CDFA receives from each of those eligibility types.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I see one more hand. Janice, is that a new hand or is that from before?
If that's me, no, I don't have another question. Sorry.
No worries. Okay. All right, everybody, I'm going to go into the chat. Thank you so much for waiting if you asked a question in the chat. And if you had to hop off, this recording will be posted, so you can tune into the recording. So the first question I see is—
do you want me to read them off to you? There's some of the ones that were in the chat that ended up being a raised hand, so we were able to get to some of them. So we've got a little less than, I think, 10 now. Do you want me to read them off to you?
Yeah, please. That'd be great. Thanks, Rachel.
Yeah. So the first one from Daisy is, can family child cares apply?
Really great question, Daisy. So I want to go first to this section of the webpage where we added some FAQs. And so these are FAQs related to the grant program as a whole, as well as there are specific FAQs related to family childcare homes. So the first question is if family childcare homes are eligible to apply. The first thing to note is that unfortunately, individual family childcare homes are not eligible to apply to the grant program directly, but family childcare homes are eligible to partner with a Farm to ECE technical assistance organization that applies to Track 3 and receive funding through the grant program that way, through that partnership. So on this page, it lists the eligible Farm to ECETA organizations. So if you're a family childcare home looking to partner with one of those, there's a list of the types of entities that would be eligible. And then if you're interested, we've added a few more FAQs related to family childcare homes on this page. So let me put this link in the chat in case it's helpful to explore that. Awesome, you're welcome. Thanks so much for sticking around this whole time, Daisy. Really appreciate it.
Okay, the next question is from Jessica. How should we best express if doing all 3 categories as a TA organization, even if selecting the school food as a primary? Will doing all 3 somehow weaken our application?
That's a really great question. So for Track 2, I'm going to pull this up and go to that TA activities and timeline section. So, oh, we're already here. That worked out well. So for Track 2, it is required to select one of the project categories. So it would be school food or education or producer training. So an applicant would select which of those 3 they're going to be focusing their project on. And then once you get to this Farm to School TA activities and timeline section, it'll have the goal, and the goal will appear, or it should appear, based on the category you've selected. So if you selected school food, then the school food goal will appear. And then there will also be project elements that you'll have an opportunity to select, and these are optional. Each one is worth up to 2 points if you'd like to select them and then fill out the activities and timeline text box for each of these. So for each of the project categories, school food, education, and producer training, there are a few project elements that kind of like tie in and connect to the other project categories. So if you're applying as a school food organization, but you also do education for like TA as an example, then in the school food project elements, there is one about engaging students and credentialed public school educators in school food transformation. Similarly, if you're, let's see, if you're applying in the producer training category, but you also, your organization also does education TA, and that's something that you'd like to incorporate into the project, there is a project element about expanding the incorporation of California food producers and hands-on food education opportunities for students. So yeah, let me know if you have additional questions about this. I guess in summary, it is required to select one of the project categories, one of those three, and focus the project on that. But there are these options in the project elements section of the application to build connections with the other two project categories and have that be elements of the project too.
Okay, the next question is, does CDFA give partial awards, or is it just a flat approval or rejection?
Yeah, really good question. So there's a section of the RFA, let me go to it, where it says, whoops, sorry. Oh, right here. The CDFA reserves the right to offer an award amount less than the amount requested. So that is possible. Yeah, that is possible.
And then how formal is a partnership? I think they're asking like if it MOU or an informal agreement letter of support is required.
So I'm not sure what track this is for, but like if it's for track 2, yeah, it wouldn't be required for an applicant to upload an MOU with a partner. The letters of support would be required from the school food authority representatives and food producer project representatives that are part of the project, kind of based on that project team section. But yeah, beyond that, beyond those required letters of support from partners in track 2, there is no requirement to upload an MOU with partners.
Okay, perfect. And Jessica, I know you're still on, so if you have any questions from these, just let us know. The next question is for budget line item 1, the California food procurement costs. Is it okay to use, for the hands-on education section, is it okay to have community events and courses, and is there a cap on that?
So is this track 1 maybe?
It's track 2.
Track 2? Okay, awesome, thank you. So this is under
the first line item on the budget spreadsheet. So it sounds like we cannot, for example, use procure foods to schools because that would be a track 1 expense. And so we're wondering, what about for culinary classes? Can we procure food for those courses? And then if there would be a cap, or like community events, etc.?
Yeah, really good question. So yeah, for track 2, California food procurement costs for student education would be allowable. So not for school meals like you're saying, but procurement of California grown or produced whole or minimally processed foods for utilization and hands-on food education opportunities that engage students, that would be allowable. And yeah, under supplies, like if you're procuring California grown or produced whole or minimally processed foods for use in culinary classes as part of your proposed project, then that would be allowable. In terms of, or sorry, does that answer the question? I feel like there might have been a second part that I missed.
I guess if there would be a cap.
Oh, there's no cap. Yeah, so in for all of the tracks, in all of the different budget categories, there's no cap except for one, which is indirect costs. that's the only budget category that has a cap, which is listed here. It's up to 30% of direct costs. But all the other categories, yeah, there's no cap. So it would be up to you to determine, like, within the award amount that you're requesting, how much you want to propose to allocate to each type of cost.
Okay, fantastic. And then I'll just ask my last question. And thank you so much, Rachel, for asking my initial ones, because I had stepped away momentarily. It is, so regarding fiscal sponsorship, are we able to allocate up to 10% of our requested funds towards fiscal sponsorship? And then also, we are, I think someone asked this earlier, but we may be in the process of switching sponsorships. And is that something that we would be able to work out? Like, for example, if we gained our own 501c3 status once the funding was approved?
Really great questions. Yeah, if you could email those to us about the 10% for the fiscal sponsor and the one about, like, becoming a nonprofit during the grant term. If you could email that to us, we'll make sure to look into that so that we can, I'm not totally sure off the top of my head, but really want to make sure to look into it and get back to you.
Okay, fantastic. And one last question. So if we're working with multiple districts and multiple producers, do we need letters of support from each of them, or else funds awarded would not be used for those said districts' producers?
Great question. Yeah, so in track 2, it depends on the project category. So the producer training category is the only one that requires letters of support from food producer project representatives, as well as from school food authority project representatives. Otherwise, if you're applying to the school food or education project categories in track 2, then the letter of support, you wouldn't need letters of support from food producers. So yeah, so the types of letters of support would depend on the project category. And then the letters of support would be based on the partners that you list in number 7. So this is where you would list like the school food authorities that you're partnering with, and then producer training, where you would also list the food producers that you're partnering with. And then the following questions should align with that. So when you get to the project team section, that's where you would be listing the school food authority representatives from those partners you listed in number 7. Number 10 is where you would list the food producer representatives from those food producer partners you listed in number 7 if you're in the producer training category. And then number 12 follows from there, where you would be uploading letters from those representatives that you listed in numbers 9 and 10.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you, Jessica. Yeah, thanks for your patience too today. Appreciate it.
Okay, the next question is from Allie at track 4, number 9. Can you explain what the following activities entail for storage, processing, distributing, and marketing? If we wash, package, and bring our produce to the schools, does that fall into those first 3 categories? And if we're making flyers and posting them online, etc., is that considered marketing?
Really great questions. Yeah, we'll leave this number 9 up to you. If you feel that what you do aligns with any of these options, then you're welcome to check all that apply. It's not a scored question. It's just like a kind of a foundational information question to learn more about your operation. So however you interpret it, and whatever of these activities you feel that your operation does, you're welcome to select those.
Great. And then for track 4, number 16, does fire insurance payout and or investments count towards cash income?
I'm not sure. I think we leave that up to you, however you interpret this question and calculate this response.
Okay, and then for track 4, number 36, for the food safety plan, in the criteria notes, it specifies producers must have a Produce Safety Alliance grower training. Does this need to be completed by the application deadline or by the time the grant would be received? The note goes on to say funds can be used for required certification. Does that mean it can cover the training expense and materials updates need to be made, if any, to be certified?
Yeah, super good question. So yeah, this is a really good thing to clarify. Thanks for asking. So yeah, in this note about food safety, it's saying that if a producer receives the grant award and does not currently have a food safety plan in place, then it must complete this Produce Safety Alliance grower training as a component of their Track for Grant project. So it would not be required to do that, you know, before the application is due. But it is something that if the producer does not currently have a food safety plan in place, then this would be a required element of their Track for project. And that the cost of that training is something that can be incorporated into the project budget if the producer would like to do that.
Great. Okay, we have 3 questions left in the chat. One is from Nurturing Seed. If part of the items on a budget are acceptable and some are not, will the grant committee still award part of the request, or is that all or nothing?
That's a really great question. So there is that piece of the RFA that says, we were on it before. It's something about how the CDFA reserves the right to offer an award amount less than the award amount requested. So that is a possibility. Let me go to that section. Yeah, right here is that line. So that is possible.
Okay, and then can budget modifications be made after the award is given if, for example, certain projects are no longer needed or have already been funded in the interim?
Yeah, another great question. So during the grant term, our team does have a budget revision request process. We definitely understand that things evolve. So there is that option for grant recipients to submit budget revision requests. And then, yeah, one thing to keep in mind is is the kind of the integrity and core of the project staying intact? And then, you know, something evolved with like the, I think Nick has said in the past, like if the how is like changing a little bit, but like the core of the project is staying the same. So sometimes that's something to keep in mind, but there is definitely a budget revision request process. And then our team is happy to work with grant recipients as things evolve to try to learn how we can support you.
Okay, and then next is from Hallie. For track 1, they're a single site charter school looking into scratch cooking and have a super outdated kitchen in need of a $1.5 million remodel. So there's 2 ideas for how to use these funds and wonder which would be more aligned with the intention of the grant or if either would be allowable. So idea 1 is to use funds to procure local foods from local farms and use some of the funds to fence in an area outside the cafeteria and create a garden to cafeteria learning lab, including like construction costs on the fencing, purchasing fruit trees, and setting up irrigation garden boxes, and the labor to set up the garden and begin working on food-related garden classes. And the second is to use some of the funds to procure local foods from local farms, and then a large chunk to contribute to the remodel, such as installing a walk-in freezer, expanding food ventilation to allow for more cooking equipment. And Hallie, I think you're still on the call if you wanted to come off mute to describe any of that.
I think I know the answer, but just curious so that when I go to my superiors who are like, wait, but aren't you trying to do a remodel? Like what? So that I can tell them like, actually the intention is not so much for that, but maybe for this. So anyways, what do you think?
Yeah, hi Hallie. Thanks for joining us for this, oh my gosh, for 2 hours. So yeah, really appreciate it. So the first thing is, unfortunately, we're not able to provide feedback on specific project ideas, but what we can say is what's like allowable or not. So procuring food from local farms to incorporate school meals, that is allowable under the like procurement component of track 1. Garden to cafeteria is also allowable under like the hands-on food education component. So school garden costs are allowable under that in track 1. Also, you know, school kitchen equipment and infrastructure, if it's for the purpose of the farm to school project, incorporating the foods that you're buying from local farms into school meals. School kitchen infrastructure and equipment is allowable in that case. So I think a lot of the things you mentioned are allowable. So it would be up to you to kind of look at the track 1 application questions and review criteria and see which ones you feel you want to propose for this project. So I think we would just suggest looking at the review criteria as a step as you're working on your application.
Okay, and then I have a lot of reading to do into all the things that you're talking about, but just curious, is there any kind of like you must use this percentage of the funds on like local farms versus like, a garden project at the school?
No, there's no requirement for the percentage of funds to be used for each of those components. Yeah, it's up to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the last question that came in is not sure for, I think it's track 3, not sure what to select under eligibility as we are a nonprofit organization and a Head Start grantee. What would be the recommendation?
Yeah, hi Karen, that's a really great question. I'm not totally sure. I think it depends on if, in terms of track 3 eligibility, in the definition of, let me go to this piece. In the definition of Farm to ECE Technical Assistance Organization, it includes Head Start grantees in California. Oh, I see what you're saying. Sorry. You're saying you're this and this. So you're applying as a Farm to ECTA organization and you're both of these. I think just pick whichever one you feel fits best. And there is that question at the very end of the application that's totally optional. If there's any clarification you'd like to add about your entity type, that could be a place if you want to add that to put it there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, it took me a second to figure out what I was saying.
But, sorry, if there was an option to pick both, I would have definitely done both, but it looks like I can only pick one.
So just go with what you feel fits best, and then if there's any clarification you want to share, you could do it at the end.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And then I see Brian's hand, and then I think after that we'll close out this session.
Hi.
Hi.
Just a quick question. I'm doing track 1, and I can know a couple of the narrative, some of the answers. They have a kind of a writing prompt that says, please use this format or this format's recommended. For one of them, it says about the activity, lists the activity and then timeline. I answered that and I kind of put a couple of sentences in the beginning before I went ahead and said activity and timeline. Is that okay? Or do I really need to stick to the formatting of what the question's asking? I mean, I wrote to the question, but I just want to make sure that I can put a couple sentences before I do the activity and timeline.
Yeah, the formatting is a suggestion. You don't have to follow it if you don't want to, if you want to add other stuff.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome question. Thanks for joining. Rachel, any other questions from the chat?
I don't see any others. I think we got everything.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining and for staying, for keeping us company for 2 hours. Really appreciate it and hope you have a wonderful day.